Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Munde. It's been a while for me, as you know. I've not been here for a while, but what a bang to come back with. Really looking forward to this podcast. I think this particular podcast and this particular gentleman kind of encapsulates what Brown Monday and what we're trying to represent here is. So that's why I'm really excited. Um, you've seen him, so I'll introduce him. Riz Rahman, welcome to the podcast. How you doing?
Yeah, good. Thank you. Now, good to be joining you guys.
Thank you. The pleasure's all ours. And obviously, got the main men, the wingmen, Keel and Afsal. Boys.
Good man, good. You know what? It's not only to have Riz on. I like his story, and to be honest with you, I think we'll get into his story anyway. But I think your brother as well. We'll get into that as well. But his story is amazing as well. So
Yeah, like I says,
yeah,
if I have to do the introductions, I will do only a slight one because we'll get to know. But yeah, Riz,
yeah,
to many of us, is a representation of especially the apnea community. He's lived out the dream of many millions of us across the globe. Professional football within the UK, and obviously played for the likes of Brentford and so forth in his career as well. But all the other stuff that's happening off the pitch as well. But Riz, like I said, before we begin, let me just get to know you first and foremost. Normally, this is a question we ask all our guests onto the podcast, but I don't know this question, so I want to ask you first and foremost. Who do you support in football?
I support Aston Villa. Obviously, born and bred in Birmingham. I've always just been.
Okay, we can accept that.
yeah,
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah, we got one of our boys, Bass. He's a big Villa fan as well. So you're not on your own there. Just tell me, obviously, again, typical upper Asian story. If I talk about myself and the boys here as well, we're first generations. Our parents had come from Pakistan, India, whatever, come here. They don't know what football is. They're working 24/7. You can't find your own journey and start liking football or not, etc. How did you come to support Villa? If I ask you that
Yeah, well,
first.
you know what? It was the same as yours, actually. So my grandparents came to England, I think in the early 50s. So obviously had the shops, had the groceries and off licenses and all that sort of stuff.
Whereabouts in Birmingham was you?
So we was in Nietzsche's.
Okay, George,
Yeah, we lived all over Birmingham, to be fair, but a lot of our childhood was actually spent like Aston, Nietzsche's, Small Heath, Alum Rock, where my cousins were, so around those areas.
Okay,
So my dad's shops were in Alum Rock, and growing up, he loved sport. My dad loved football, he loved cricket, and he's a really good cricket player. But his dad, obviously, my granddad never let my dad really go and play sports because he needs to be in the shops, wake up in the morning, go with him to the cash and carries, and get all the stuff in. But my dad used to always sneak off and play for his football school team, cricket team. Then he had some trials for Warwickshire, and my granddad was like, "What are you talking about? We don't play sport. We need you in the shops." You know what I mean? But and my dad always said that. But when he has kids, he's going to make sure that he encourages his children to play sport and football. And back in the day, back in the 80s, like my dad always supported Villa, like Peter Whiff. He remembers the 1982 Champions League final when Villa won that. And he'd always go to the whole tent, and he always said that he felt safe there, even at a time when there's a lot of the NF, a lot of Pakistanis are getting battered and things like that. But he always said at the whole tent with the Villa fans, with the Villa scarf on, he felt like he was one of them. You know what I mean? And growing up, when we were like 6, 7, 8, and 9, my dad would take us to Villa Park, and honestly, I didn't experience any racism. Nothing, no issues whatsoever. And I think at the time, we were probably the only Asian family sat right there watching Villa play. I didn't see many Asians. In fact, I didn't really think about it, to be honest. Like, we just love football. So my dad just thought he had the shops on the Saturdays, 3 p.m. kickoffs. We would go, it would cost £5 to get in, and it was cheap, So that's where the sort of love for football started. That came from my dad.
Wow, you know what? I find that quite interesting because I don't know whether the gentlemen's at Man United, the sayings that used to be back in the day, you used to see them. We had one of the gentlemen on Satta, Sardar, his pug and things like that. And his was almost quite the opposite. He said that they were facing racism. I think, boys, remember, I think he went to the West Brom game, didn't he?
yeah,
I think his first game was.
Yeah,
yeah.
And
West
he
Brom.
noticed it quite a lot. So Riz, for what you're saying to your story, especially obviously both teams being in Birmingham as well. Yeah, I was quite surprised with that. And like you said, especially when they're the only Asians in the ground, probably especially the Hall end as well. Um,
Yeah. Honestly, like we used to love going there. We used to get our kit on every Saturday. Some evening games we would go, and my dad was very supportive. That's where we got the love for football. Actually, watching like Danny Atkinson, Dwight York, Big Ron Atkinson, the dugout. Like even on the on school holidays, we would go and my dad would sign us up for the Villa Foundation, like community programs. We would spend the whole week there every morning, 9 till 3 p.m. playing football and just loving the game.
that was going to be my next question. So clearly understand where that come from. And obviously your dad obviously played a massive, massive part in that there. When was that time you realized, I suppose, you and your brother obviously I know played football, but when did you realize that this might be a little bit more than just a kickabout with the lads or just going for the week or whatever, summer holidays or whatever it was?
Yeah, you know what? Again, when we were like 8 and 9, so I think it was a 1990 World Cup. I remember my dad watching it like all the time, and I think the games kicked off quite late because I think it was in Brazil, so it was like evening kickoffs. And I remember just being up late with my dad and Zesh, just watching.
Was that the 94 World Cup? Italy was 90. I remember the 94 World Cup used to be
94
quite,
World Cup. That was the 94
yeah.
World Cup. Yeah,
That was
that's
in
it.
America. It used to be
In
quite
America,
late.
that's it. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like
yeah,
late
yeah.
kickoff. Sorry, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And we were like 8 and 9, and our school team had no football team, so we were literally just playing the playground. And one day, a letter came through from the Washington Heath Little League. So the Birmingham Council was setting up a little league in Washington Heath Park, and there were trials coming up. So we took the letters home to my parents. My dad actually delivered the letters in person to the council so they don't get lost. Then me and Zesh went for these like 4 or 5 week trials every Saturday at Washington Heath Little Park. And then at the end of the trial, we had a letter come through the post. And Zesh got the letter saying he'd been selected. I got the letter saying I hadn't been selected. And I was there crying my eyes out. But then when Zesh went training with his team, I went along with him as well. And some of the players dropped out and I started playing with Zesh's team. So like we both started playing like together. And in that first season, although Zesh got selected ahead of me, he never played any football. He was always on the bench, and every Saturday he would end up crying going home because he never played. Then the following season, when he was like 10, 11, something just clicked with Zesh. And then since then, he's pretty much not looked back, But my dad, he went out, he bought a coaching book. And then when we were like 9 and 10, my dad did his coaching badges. So again, talking about generations, hopefully third generation he went out, bought a coaching book, did his coaching badges. And then on his assessment, he asked the coach educator, why are there no Asian players? And he said, Riz, Zesh, you're good players, but you're scared of the weather. You got the wrong diet. Your parents push you towards education, not sport. After school, you're always in the madrasas, doing Islamic reading. He said, you're good players, but you got no chance. He said, your kids have got a better chance. I mean, that's thinking, hang on a minute. We're like 9 and 10, but we're like good players, Any other young person, if you're told that at 9, 10 right now, the kids will start crying. But we sort of use that as a fuel of motivation. And the whole journey was then about proving this person wrong and then proving to ourselves that we could do it, And to be fair to my dad, he was literally there the whole way through. Education was number one for us. Me and Zesh both got our GCSEs. We got good grades in it. Growing up, 12, 13, 14, if we didn't do our homework, if we messed around at school, our punishment was no training, no football. And we would cry our eyes out sometime as well. So we made sure that we balanced our football education, our Islamic reading. So I feel like that way, my dad did a great job in sort of like nurturing our talent and making sure that we kept our feet on the ground as well,
So when you got your brother got selected, his position not currently, was obviously in the professional leagues. It was the defender, wasn't he? The centre back. What was yours? Or did it change over the time from like when you were younger to when you...
And then you grow up and you start playing different positions. So when Zesh was coming through, Zesh used to be a striker.
Yeah.
And then when he was at Fulham, when he was like 12, 13, 14, he played up front. He would score goals. Then as he gets taller, he went back in the midfield. As he's got taller again, he started playing centre back. So I think for young players, it's important that we don't get fixated on one position.
Yeah.
So to develop as a player, you might play right back, left back, centre mid, centre forward. That helps you develop your overall game as well. But when we were like
what
9,
what was yours though?
so mine was like, I was a right back.
Right, okay.
I was little. I was like a Paul Parker, you know what I mean, smashing players. And when I was playing to midfield, I think I was a Roy Keane, very Cantona.
Some legends there.
Yeah, I was always like there, bulldog in the middle, like smashing players and keeping it simple, moving it.
Riz, let me just take you back slightly, to what you said, and about not making it, like you said, the challenges, the weather, the food, and things of that nature as well. Because I used to be, I was the only operator in the whole school, both junior school and senior school that used to play football as well. I started playing in the summer tournaments, the Asian tournaments that used to go around. I think there was a guy who used to play for Pakistan. He used to play in them as well. So I think I started when I was about 14. But you know how you said you got the trials? We used to get trials, but used to come teams scouts used to come to watch the team, but they would never select the operator. Even my cousin, he's what I'd say was more naturally. Again, his dad used to play football as well. But again, every time he was playing again, was doing the trials, but say there was somebody else, a white person who was there, and he was neck and neck, or even maybe he was slightly better, he would never get chosen. And from your experience, I mean, it's so sometimes easy to say that they were racist, or like you said, there's not, your dad kind of pointed out, well, where's the Asian players? Why aren't they there? Somebody like yourself who'd kind of made that journey, but actually took that step as well. What's your perspective on that? Was it that, I kind of do agree with the food. Parate. We used to play Saturday, Sunday. We used to be parate every Sunday after, like, do you know what I mean? So not only is the game wiped out, but your parate wiped out as well. But yeah, what's your take on that kind of viewpoint that many of us have had growing up?
Yeah, you know what? Like, the journey was never easy. Like, we didn't, like I said, when we were like 9 and 10, we just wanted to play football, and we played football everywhere in the house. We smashed windows in the back garden. Back garden was an absolute mess. The house was a pigsty, just loads and loads of footballs everywhere. Mama got to Pakistan, and all we'd ask for is footballs. And she'd come back with a suitcase of footballs, and she'll travel Pakistan to go to the factory to make sure she picked them up for us. And when we were going in year 5 and year 6, me and Zesh wrote to football clubs asking for trials. So every club in the Midlands, every club in London, and we'd always get the same response. Thank you for your letter. Our quota is full. Send us your fixtures and we'll come and watch you. But then you just never know, And then when we moved to London, when we were like in year 7 and year 8, so we left Birmingham, we were quite young, moved to London, and going back to what you said, me and Zesh were the only Asians. We've gone from Birmingham, where everyone's diverse, it's mixed, your family's around, cousins, aunties coming over. We moved to Sutton, which is a Gawler area, leafy trees, leafy Surrey. Went to Cheam High, and in our school, out of 1,200 kids, me and Zesh were the only 2 Asians in our school. Got called a P word every day, got chased home. But when the school trial started, because we were good at football, we got respect. And that was what really changed things for us. You know what I mean? Then my friends are like, oh, come and play for my Sunday league team. And you go play in the Epsom and Newell leagues, and everyone again is just white. But we used that as for our advantage, because we stuck out. We're Asians, we stuck out. We both played for our district, we both played for our counties. And that's when Zesh got selected at under 12s for Fulham. But prior to that, he was training at Chelsea. We were both training at Chelsea, and Zesh would train all year round, but never got selected once for a game. Now, you can probably go back and say it was racism, or, they don't see Asian footballers. But when you're that age, you don't really think about it. I think going back 20, 30 years, who spoke about racism? Like, I don't even remember what the word meant, I don't think. It was never brought to my attention. I think now it's more prevalent because it's in the media and kids are talking about it in school. We never talked about diversity or racism. We just got on with it. You know what I mean? It's only when we really got to 13, 14, so I was actually at Fulham, I was at Brentford, that you start to become more self-aware and realize, you know what? not many Asian players. You watch TV, our heroes were like Rio Ferdinand, Paul Ince, Shearer, Gaza. And then the dream was to become the first to play in the Premier League, and Zesh did that, But I think you got to play in the right leagues as well. I know you talked about Asian-only leagues, but we never played in Asian-only leagues. A lot of the players on the Ains program, the PFA, a lot of the kids coming through, they didn't play in Asian-only leagues either. So I think that a lot of education is probably needed with the parents to know what the pathway looks like in your local area, who are the best teams, where do the scouts go, speak to the players who are currently playing, find out what their pathway was, and really get involved that way, So yeah, to answer your question, it wasn't straightforward, and we've still got the letters. I've still got the letters when we wrote to the likes of Crystal Palace, Villa, West Ham, Man United, West Brom, all these clubs we wrote to. We've still got the letters in the folder upstairs in the loft, So when we did get the opportunity, we made sure that we took it, that we weren't gonna let it slip getting this far.
You know what, Riz? I mean, even that there saying, you wrote the letters, etc. That just shows that one extra step, that how badly you want it. Because I think we all want it. We all wanted to play and things like that. But I don't think many of us, if any of us, took that next step like you boys did. Do you know what I mean?
And you know what you said there about wanting it. We didn't want it. We needed it, if I'm honest. And there's a massive difference between want and the need. Like, we grew up, there were 6 of us, me, Zesh, 4 sisters. And my dad, when he moved from Birmingham to London, he was a taxi driver. Then he sort of got himself qualified as a driving instructor. My mum was always a housewife. And we struggled. Like, sometimes we couldn't even go to school mufti days because we had no money. You know what I mean? It's not been straight. So we actually needed it because we knew that it could change our lives, the family's lives and that. So we didn't leave any corner, any stone unturned. It was literally like making sure that we worked hard every single day. And if it wasn't going to be football, we made sure we had our education as well.
No, 100%. Absal, sorry, just before I forget, I think you might be coming in here. But what I mentioned about things like food, I think that's a massive, massive part of the game. I always used to, like you said, I never used to look at race and color. I think, oh, he's white, that's why he's getting selected. I'm brown, I'm not getting selected. But what I did notice was a massive difference in stamina. I'd play, I'd have the technique and things like that, but I just couldn't keep up. And it's only I suppose, like you said, about 13, 14, you start thinking about food and things like that. But, again, being from a Desi household, parathe, in your dal sabji, all that kind of thing, do you know what I mean? But did you make any conscious effort, or your dad, obviously, he was quite educated in this side of things, especially the coaching. Did you boys make any of those kind of sacrifices or any changes to your dietary requirements and things of that nature? Because what I'm thinking about here, sorry, is literally the people who are listening to this there, they might try and pick up something, like trying to help them on their journey as well.
Yeah, no, we did. So when Zesh got offered a 2-year contract at Fulham at 13, the coach called him into the changing room, into the office with my parents, and he said to Zesh, "Look, you're growing." And he asked Zesh to lift his top up. And when Zesh lifted his top up, you could see like some wobbly bits and that. He's a growing lad, and he said, like, "Look, you got to do less of the curries, less of the oil, and more of the grilled stuff." And my mum was there as well. And then my mum actually didn't change her whole cooking habits for me and Zesh. So sort of the dal and the buff there and all that sort of stuff. We were having grilled chicken, grilled fish, but she'd also make the curry for my dad because my dad loves the spice. And then my sisters didn't want the grilled stuff. They didn't want the healthy stuff. So they would have like what dad eating. So we'd have one meal for me and Zesh, pasta, chicken, vegetables. Even like we didn't like vegetables. No kid likes vegetables. But my dad would not let us leave the room if we did not finish the vegetables or the salad. You know what I mean? So we made sure that we did all that. And to be fair, like when I was 15, 16, I was the quickest in the county in terms of running like 100 meters. And Zesh was the fittest in his age group as well. And every time he'd go back into pre-season, he would be in the top 2, 3 in his fitness, as would I. So we made sure that, we made sure we ran the most, covered the most distances, cut down on like your fizzy drinks and your chocolates. No one's saying don't eat them, but just eat them in moderation as well. So yeah, I think the diet was massively important, as it was for my mum as well. So the advice to any parent is just make sure that you're aware of the grill stuff and less oils. But again, it's got to come from the player as well. That he needs to tell his parents, like, look, this is what I need for my profession.
No, 100%. Sorry, Afsar, go on.
Wow. First of all, it's an honor, Riz. Thank you for joining us. I know I've been quiet so far. Second of all, Hobbs, if you want some dal, drive up north, bro. I've got tons after the last 2 days I've had.
Yeah, there's always a debate. I think we're going to have to settle it one time. Is it the north, the mid, the west, or the south that do the best food, the chicken and things like that? But I don't want to talk too much about it. I know it's Ramadan at the moment, so my apologies. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it sounds like your mum and dad, so much respect to Uncle and Auntie G there. They sound like trailblazers to me in how I assume this is 80s, 90s, 2000s, like how that mindset change flipped from roti salan to the healthy food, the grilled stuff, right? You've got to focus on this, but you've also got to manage your madrasa and your Quran and your GCSEs and everything. And my first sort of exposure to this was with my nephew, who my brother-in-law has no interest in football, even though he's a Geordie. I would have thought Alan Shearer, Tino Asprilla, that kind of era would have hooked him, but clearly it didn't. So my nephew's only sort of foray into football was through me. And through me, obviously, he's become a United fan. He's now started playing football. I think he does either Saturday or Sunday league. And he's homeschooled. So my sister homeschools, but also like he's in madrasa. He's, and that was my first experience of everything being very balanced out. And I just thought, like, had this happened years ago, maybe the situation for happening within not just football, but within sport as a whole could be totally different. And what you've just said there is like, it's a gold mine. Like, it was happening, and it was just like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's almost like they were pioneers in that sense. Obviously, it led to yourself and your brother being pioneers in a different sense as well. And I think what I'm trying to get at is, how does that make you guys feel as a family?
Yeah, no, look, I think in a way we look back and we reflect on the journey, because obviously now I'm helping, we're through my work, trying to help and mentor and support young players. And a lot of time it's about me and Zesh, like, sharing our experiences. And then if I go back again, when we were like 9 and 10, what my dad did was he went out and bought those old camcorders. And what he would do is every Saturday at our fixtures, my sister would stand there on the tripod or something in her hand and record the game. Most of the time, she was recording the birds and the trees and all sorts. But what my dad would do is he would go home and we'll get the VCR and he would connect it to the VCR. And then we would watch those clips back. So right now, we're seeing a lot of analysis on TV and players, but we were doing that 30 years ago. You know what I mean? My dad was way, way ahead of his time. Like, now you think back, you think, what? We were doing that at 9, 10. And again, we actually burnt all the videos on the VCR into little DVDs, and we still got them as well. So we look back on our journey and think, like, wow, we were doing that at 9, 10. Like, players only doing it now, So yeah, when I do look back, I do feel like obviously we're grateful for the support our parents gave us. Even when Zesh was coming through at Fulham and I was at Brentford, obviously, like, Zesh is South London, I'm more West London. So my dad would take me sometimes to my fixtures, and sometimes my nan would take Zesh on a train across London for training in the evening. So it's like it is a whole family commitment. It's not just the commitment of the players; it's your brothers, your sisters, your aunties, your uncles. You use your extended family, make sure that everyone's on that same sort of journey together. And that's what the messages we're now passing on to these young players along the way. And if I'm honest, a lot of it was literally trial and error. We couldn't pick up the phone to someone. We couldn't message someone on Instagram or Twitter. It just wasn't there. You couldn't send an email to anyone or get someone's phone number because there was no mobile phones either. So it was a case of basically trial and error. But when I look back now and reflect on it, my dad wasn't far off. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a surprise to see Zesh playing the Premier League, play 500 career games, and now to see what he's doing now in terms of coaching at Portsmouth. Zesh does a lot of work with the defenders, and they're sitting top of the league, got the best clean sheet. So we've always it's always been a case of coming through, then us helping the next generation of young players in the system.
I was just going to ask, moving in, your transition into your role with the PFA. So you've obviously played. You're playing career. You've hung your boots up. Was this something that you was already thinking about? Was it something that you fell into? Just explain to me what happened there.
Yeah, so to be honest with you, again, a bit of chance actually. So at 17, when I was in my second year scholarship at Brentford, I broke my leg in the first game of the season, and I was out for a whole year basically. At the same time, and I was out, like Zesh coming through at Fulham playing first team football, and then at 2021, I sort of came out the game because I got a 2-year contract, 2-year pro contract after my injury, but it just didn't really feel the same as I was progressing. So I came out the game at 21. At 20, Zesh was doing really well. I ended up going to college at 21, doing a foundation degree in sports science. And I had as a scholar, you do your BTEC at football. So rather than A-level, so I did my BTEC. That got me to college. And if I'm honest, the first year of college, I hated it. I didn't see myself being a student. All I wanted to do was play football. Suddenly I found myself in college with like students. I'm thinking, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, that must have been tough because obviously all your life you've been playing. Like you said, you've done well at school, but the vision's always football.
Yeah, that was it. Like suddenly I was in college, and in my first year, I failed. So I got caught cheating in an exam, and I remember the teacher saw me, and she clapped my eyes. I was thinking, "Oh God, what have I done?" And then I walked out the classroom, embarrassed, head down, and then she's like, "You know what's happened?" And I think when I again reflect back, I was probably like, you could say depressed a little bit because
it wasn't a mental thing, wasn't a thing.
Yeah, I think so. But again, 20 years ago, he spoke about mental health. No one spoke about it. Cut a long story short, I came back, I did a resit, I passed that exam. Then when I got selected into university, my 3-year degree, I was the only student out of the 60 students to get a first class degree. And what I realized was that because I'm competitive, I just wanted to be the best. So all my classmates, whatever grades they got, I just knew that I was going to beat them. So I just made sure that I did my coaching badge with the PFA. I got a first class degree in sports science. Then my brother set up his charity, the Zesh Rahman Foundation. Then I started running Zesh's charity on a voluntary basis. And then, we got some funding from the PFA Premier League. And what we said was that, look, there's no Asian players, but to get Asian players, we need Asian coaches. So did a program called Sideline to Sidelines. We upskilled 50 coaches and we gave them jobs around London. And the PFA sort of loved that job, that program I did. And in 2013, a job came up at the PFA and I sort of got that job at the PFA and then stayed there basically ever since as well.
Again, what you said earlier, and I've always gone through that as well. When you're looking at yourselves and you're playing, and not just playing, just anything, like you said, your education and the later on the PFA. You never, I don't, I think you're the same as well. We never saw ourselves as brown or different. The only way I used to differentiate myself was skill set. Am I good enough? If I'm not, why am I not good enough? But you sound exactly the same as me as well. It's probably something to do with the way the generation we were brought up on. I think that's a big help to us as well. But now that you hear a lot of diversity and inclusion, and I think there is merit to that, obviously, yeah. But from your perspective now, is there a conscious bias of diversity inclusion it not happening because of the skin color, or is it purely we need, like you said about earlier, your food and things of that nature, the coaching, it's just education within the especially our community that needs more of that, rather than just having brown faces on the pitch on the side, but they've got to be good at it, right? They've got to do something. Is that how you see? Is that you're just upskilling people rather than just trying to tick boxes and get numbers and faces on there? What's your approach when you do that?
So at the PFA, we've got the program Asian Inclusion Mentoring Scheme. And I think I said earlier, like when we were coming through, it was a case of trial and error. There was no one to pick the phone up to. Now, what we want to try and do is So people like Zesh, Danny Bath, Neil Taylor, Mal Benning, obviously doing really well at Shrewsbury. These guys didn't just come through by themselves. They had a good support network around them. So Zesh had me, Mal had his dad who took him everywhere and took him to Asian only leagues, Neil Taylor, Otis Khan. So what we wanted to do was give this same support network to the young players and the families in the system. Because when you're a young Pakistani, Indian, Sri Lankan or Bangladeshi kid, and a parent, once you come into the system and you go for an academy trial, you sign for an academy, chances are you're the only Asian face in that building. If you're a black parent or a black player or a white player going for a trial, chances are you know someone who's been through that pathway and know someone in the system.
You can just connect with somebody.
Next someone. So at the moment, Asians didn't have that. So that's what we've created. We've created that sort of network support for families, players who are on the pathway, because everything these kids are going to go through the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, I've been through that. Zesh's been through that. Danny's been through that. Mal Benning's been through that. So what we do is we basically pass on our experiences to those families and those parents, and then give them that sort of education and what to expect. Any setback, how they can deal with that. Any issues at training or on their coaching reports, their ILPs, we can advise and guide them through that as well. We're not guaranteeing professional players at the end of it, but what we can sort of guarantee is good, well-rounded individuals. Even if they don't have a career in the game, hopefully they can go and have a good career in whatever industry they want to go into as well.
No, that's fantastic. Sorry, Aki, were you going to say something? You're on
You're on mute,
sorry.
bro.
This your first time?
Yeah.
No.
Sure.
It always happens. So how you were saying about obviously the South Asians and getting into the game, into the system. There was one article I saw which you got interviewed on, and there was something that interested me into it as well, saying Sport England data shows that only 0.45% of players of the South Asian heritage are playing in the top 4 English divisions. That's just 16 individuals from a pool of 3,500 applications. How do we change that? How's South Asians, how do we change that and increase the number, in your opinion?
You know what? I think it goes back down to the grassroots. So when me and Zesh coming through in Birmingham, or even in London, like I said, we were the only South Asians in our Saturday team, Sunday team, district, county. And again, I think Harps, you said that you'd played in a lot of the Asian only leagues. So I think, I personally don't think there's enough South Asian kids at the ages of probably 6, 7, 8, even 5, 6, 7, 8 playing grassroots football. I think the participation is there. They're playing your local goals and they're playing in the local community centres, mosque leagues, gurdwaras, etc. But when they get to 8, 9, 10, I don't generally think we'll see enough South Asian kids playing competitive grassroots footballs in leagues which have connections with your professional clubs. And that's what we need. We need to move away from. I respect the Asian only leagues. I know why they were set up, but kids aren't signed from Asian only leagues. Kids are signed from the competitive leagues. So again, that goes back down to the education for the parents of what that pathway looks like in their area and what are sort of leagues. Until we flood the academy system with young South Asian players. So at the moment, at any one given time, there's about 12,000 kids in the system. And in the pre-academy, so the pre-academies are like, say, under 7s, under 8s, under 9s, the numbers are just not there for South Asians. Yeah. If you look at the England team, 52% of the England team came from a club from under 9s. At the moment, our numbers are very, very small at that phase. Too much time is spent at the top end, focused on that. But we should really focus on the grassroots. Get kids playing at 3, 4, 5, 6. Can we get the schools more involved? Can we get our parents more involved in the kids' development at a really young age? Can the parents go and, buy some footballs and do some stuff in the kids' garden or in the house or something? That's where it's really got. It starts with the parents. It starts with the love of the game for the parents, and then going to the little kickers and being committed. If their son doesn't play, parents like, oh, it's racism. Mate, we went to training for a whole year. We didn't play. We didn't give up. We kept going. I think too much and too quickly we blame other factors instead of looking at ourselves and thinking, what can we do? How can we deal with that setback? And let's look at the focus on the positive side of things. So to answer your question, Nikhil, I think really we need more kids playing at a younger age group. And as they progress, obviously they'll filter. It'll be like a funnel, you know what I mean? You get the most of it. Then when you get to the top, it'll be very few. At the moment, the numbers are very, very low at the lower end.
I think personally, Riz, obviously, like I said, when I say the Asian only leagues, that used to be more of the summer tournaments. But you're right, I used to play for more of the Asians, Sea Hunters, Sporting Castle, kind of playing now as well. And these kind of teams rather than the what we call the traditional Gore teams. But for me, with my child as well, trying to get him to that journey. I put my viewpoint is that the parents take a massive part of it there. I mean, we're so quick to say, "Baya, Dori Janna," do you know what I mean? Sit down. Like you said, your house was like upside down football, you and your brother and things like that. Whereas we'll say, "No, come inside." It's too dangerous outside. Whereas like I see a lot of white, black families and their children. They're outside. They're doing the kick around. They're running around. I think we sometimes scare our children in that respect. So when you said, you might not been playing on the pitch, for a whole year, but you already know that no, I'm going to go through it. I'm going to go through it. I just feel upbringing families, we give them too much too soon, and it's like, oh, what's the here? We kind of mollycoddle them, and
No,
I
I
think
was
that's
going to say that we actually mollycoddle them, and again, we grew up on council estates in Birmingham, in London, where a lot of the kids didn't have much. We were part of Bernardo's and a lot of charitable organizations. So I said, it goes back to that need. But yeah, when it came to being at home, my dad had like a floodlight fit in the back garden, so we could be up we literally play all night until my mum had to come to the front or back and scream us in. That's what it was like. So even going to school in the mornings, like we're taking the football. My dad, we had like a garden dog, an old station called Rocky. And Rocky, we remember Dad seen him once in the park with someone else, and this dog was just chasing the ball. My dad went and we bought the dog from the neighbor, because he was moving or something. And this dog, Rocky, he was the best dog ever, guard dog in the garden. But you know what? He would always just be chomping at the ball. And if we didn't move the ball quickly, so we were set up like 4 cones, like a really small area, and Rocky would be in there like chasing us, and we had to be really quickly to move the ball. So little things like that we would set up sessions in the garden, front garden, around the park. My dad would set up sessions for us, running up hills, Swingo Park in Birmingham, like a hill there, which run up that hill, down the hill, just making sure that was on top of everything.
See that story you just told me, especially about the dog as well. The first thing that come into my mind was Pep, and his
I was
rondos.
gonna say this, man.
So it's almost like, it's almost like your old man was literally the upper Pep, like, do you know what I mean, ahead of his time doing it, but he foresaw things, and to me, it screams to me is as a child. Again, the only one I can compare myself is to my cousin. He was 4 years older than me, but he was more natural. He had the pace, he could run, he had the agility. Whereas I had to really work at my game, do the kick-ups all the time. I had the war, one touch, Wembley, and all that kind of thing. But it just shows, and his dad used to play football as well, and mine didn't. Again, the typical 12 hours shifts and things like that. But it's just so key how important your family is behind that. And I'm guessing that's probably the message that you're also, the work that you do with the PFA is what you're trying to send out as well, how important that you are to your child.
Yeah, no, listen, like we were never the best players. So again, at 9, 10, 11, me and Zesh, we weren't the best players in our team. Zesh was never the best player when he was young. But he worked at his game again. He would do kick-ups, and my dad used to give him like 50p if he got 200 kick-ups, £1 if he got to 200. Then at one point, by the time he was 11, 12, Zesh could do his record was like 4,000 kick-ups. So he'll do 100 a minute.
Jeez.
I don't know whether I've done 4,000 in my whole career, man. Bloody hell.
When we were under 11s, so the little league went bust. So there's no funding of the council to like create the league. So again, Zesh wrote to Villa, he wrote to Wolverhampton Wanderers, Man United, say, look, can I come onto the pitch and do kick-ups and do some fundraising. And the first time he did it was at Wolverhampton Wanderers. They wrote to him saying, Zesh, you're allowed to come in. They played Charlton Athletic. At 2 p.m, Zesh went onto the pitch and he kept the ball up for 45 minutes, did 4,000 kick-ups, and that's all the players coming out, warming up. The crowd was getting bigger and bigger. And they made a good donation to our little league, and he stayed afloat. 2 weeks later, I did it at Villa Park. They played Tottenham, and at half-time, Zesh came onto the pitch. He's only 11, and he did kick-ups for like 10 minutes, you know what I mean? So, again, doing them kick-ups at Villa, on the back of that, the guy who organised it, Zesh, my dad contacted him about getting a trial for Zesh at Villa. So Zesh had a little trial at Villa as well. He didn't get signed, but we was always thinking about, like, how can we just get into the game? So him doing the kick-ups, writing to clubs. He wrote to Man United and we got a letter back from Alex Ferguson saying, look, at this particular time, we can't do it. But Alex wanted to write to Zesh and just thank him and said, look, good luck in the future. And again, we still got all these letters that we wrote out to the clubs as well. But yeah, I think with the parents now is, like, that's the advice we give out to the. In fact, this April is 20 years since Zesh made his Premier League debut. So Zesh made his debut coming at Anfield on April the 17th, 2004. And that's 20 years since, when I say a full British Asian, so both parents, you know, from the same background, Pakistani, no other player has come through and played in the Premier League, like a full Sikh or a full Indian or a full Pakistani or full Bang. No one. Like, so that just shows you how hard it is. You know what I mean? It's not easy for a British-born Muslim Pakistani to play in the Premier League. It's like, who thought that 20 years ago? They didn't think of it. So the message to our parents now is like, look, the game's tough, the journey's tough. You need a good support network around you, but don't give up. Just, you might be at Fulham right now, you might get released, or Chelsea, but doesn't mean you're not going to make it or have a career in the game. You know, so you got to be really show a lot of perseverance. There's a lot of BS that goes on behind the scenes as well. So just making sure that if it's not football, you've got something else along the way as well. And there's so many jobs in the game. You know, you can always work in the game, where it's coaching or refereeing. Now, which we'll see with the Singh brothers as well, the Gill brothers. But there's a lot more.
Yeah. Can I just ask, Riz? Obviously, it sounds like your family unit, as in your mom, your dad, your nan, your brother, your sisters, were incredible. Like, that support network is like, it's the dream. If I think about, I mean, I'm from a single parent household, but I had my sisters around me, and I think if I had something like that, I would have been over the moon with it, right? But obviously times are different and focuses were elsewhere. But typically within a lot of up-and-near households, you get a lot of jealousy and you get a lot of competition. Like with me, it was always, well, that cousin's gone to uni, or that cousin's doing this degree, or that cousin's done this. Was there a lot of that with you and Zesh within your extended family because you chose to go down the football route?
You know what? Luckily, we left Birmingham when we were, like I said, in year 7, year 8. So a lot of our extended family were in Birmingham. So we moved from Birmingham to London, 100 miles down south. And then we only had one cousin who was living in Birmingham. And the reason why, London. And the reason why my dad moved us to London was more opportunities. And looking back, and again, I'll keep saying use the word reflection, but when I think back and reflect, it's the best thing that we ever did. Because some of the cousins and uncles and aunties and, like, you know, friends from back in the day, they're just doing the same thing. Well, I feel like we really excelled. Like, we left Birmingham and came to London, and we had thick Brummie accents. Like, you know what I mean? I remember my first
like mine, yeah.
my first lesson, I was quite confident, like, going from Birmingham to London. It was English, and he said he wants to read. So obviously I put my hand up to read, stood up, my Brummie accent came out. This is my first day in school, by the way. The whole class just started laughing, I swear. I sat down in my seat, I sunk into my chair, and I don't think I said a word to anyone for like 2-3 years. Until I got onto the football pitch, actually, you know. But yeah, but it was the best thing we had to do, because I had to then do more reading and try to correct my English, make sure I'm saying things properly. But I knew they were to be educated. So my sisters got their degrees, you know. My sisters they all went out and did well in terms of their education and careers, etc. But yeah, that family support is massive. And again, looking back to some of my young players I work with now, not everyone's got that. Not everyone's got the extended families. Not everyone's got parents or mums and dads who understand football. Not everyone's got both parents. So if they do come into the game, we let them know through the clubs that there is a support network there for them if they want to tap into it. Because mentoring is not for everyone. Some people can think, I don't care what industry you're in, you can't do it yourself, whether you're working in media, newspaper, wherever it is, whether you're a physio, wherever you are, you need good mentors, a good support network. And I feel that's where like we can help players in the game and also when they transition. So Zesh made that transition from playing to coaching. He had a good support network. Some of the Asian players now doing the coaching badges, Zesh can now mentor them. So we're just trying to create that mindset that it's good to have a good support network and reach out and talk to people and find out how you can improve as an individual.
No, massive, man. That is.
I respect the work so much. I really
You
do.
know, you know what it is like from this conversation. It's not so. You know how Harp said you guys wanted it, but you correctly saying you needed it. It wasn't just you and your brother that needed it. It was also your family in a way as well, didn't you? Because your dad moved you, made that sacrifice to actually get better opportunities to move from the Midlands to the South. In a way, he also needed it as well. Do you know what I mean? This is that's the message that is coming across for me from you. Do you know what I mean? Is that it's not only you that needed it or your brother, it was only your family needed it as well.
Yeah, man, 100%. Like even when I came at the game at 20, I was still what I used to do was go to college, go to university. Then when Zesh finished training at Fulham in the afternoon, we'll come home, we'll have a nap. I'll have a nap, then I'll go in the park with him, take a bag of footballs, and we do extras. And I'll do like crossing, finishing. And then I remember one game he played Newcastle away at St James's Park. And that week, on the Tuesday, he finished training and said, Zesh, tell you what, let's go around the park. I'll put crosses in because you're playing against Shearer and Cliver, and Shearer's good in the box. And I remember like looking around the park and like these big trees. And we were thinking, I said, Zesh, on Saturday, you'll walk out St James's Park, them trees will be fans. You know what I mean? And we had 45,000 fans, 50,000 fans at St James's Park. And Fulham won that day, 4-1. And Zesh played well. He marked Shearer and Cliver. Cliver did nothing in that game. So yeah, even though I came out of it, I was still like sort of involved in football. Like my mum, dad would go watch his game, my sisters. But yeah, that family support is massive. And yeah, I feel like we all needed it. But again, even if we didn't become footballers, we would have been successful in other areas because the football was just tagged alongside what we did. You know what I mean? The education, it was, and the religious part of it was more important than the football. But because we're good at both, we just sort of like manage it together.
Yeah, like he says, I think the biggest thing that's coming across to me is family and the support there. Riz, obviously, you know, and we're going to come towards the end of this podcast now. I don't want to take too much of your time, but your future, what does future look like for Riz? You know, obviously you're doing some great work and with the PFA and things of that nature, but is there anything that you kind of looking to do in there that you've not done before, or you're still looking to do the same and more, you know, what you're doing? What's the future?
Yeah, now like right now we're coming to the end of the year 4 of the 5-year strategy. So when we started doing this work 5-6 years ago around South Asian players, we wanted to change the narrative from a negative one to a more positive one. Like I didn't want the young players always being asked in the media, oh, why is there a lack of Asian players? You know, why is it a diet or the same old stereotypical questions? So, and I feel like we've done that in some way. We don't focus on the negatives, we focus on the positives. So the positives are, we talk about the pathway. How did Zesh come through? How did Zidane Iqbal come through at Man United and a few other players? So next season is our 5th year of the strategy. I want to finish that off. And then I want to write some recommendations for like the game actually, and what we feel could help more kids get into the game. I didn't even share this earlier, but at university, my whole dissertation was a case study on Zesh, and I looked at what it takes to come through into the game, and everything I'm doing at the PFA now in terms of the mentoring program and the support networks. All that was documented in my dissertation in 2007. So I literally brought my dissertation and my recommendations to life. So next season, I want to revisit that maybe like publish something around that, and then hopefully just see where we go. You know what I mean? Like Zesh is doing well at Portsmouth. They may get promoted this season, and he becomes the first Pakistani Asian coach to get promotion from a League One league team to the Championship. You know, I want to just keep helping players and people better themselves. You know, working in the game. I love what I do. Like my job is not like a job, if you know what I mean. It's like I work every day. I can work at night. I don't even see it as work. It's something which I'm passionate about. Not just around Asian players, but players of faith. So whether you're a Muslim player, Sikh player, making sure that they're being supported in the game for their cultural needs, religious needs, diet needs. So we're doing a lot of work around that as well. So I want to just continue what I'm doing. When I get to 50, 60 and then my legs are gone and I ain't got the energy to get in the car and drive the country, then I might look at do something different. But right now, while I like to think I'm still fit and young, I want to try and get around and set up as many programs as possible.
Riz, you're definitely fitting young because me and you got similar age. So yeah, you're definitely fitting young. Yeah, I'm gonna live myself through you. Yeah. Just somewhere nearby 40. No, but like I said, it's massive what you've been doing. Like I said, we know what you do, and in from our perspective, it's an inspiration. Like you just said, you might not necessarily be a footballer. Like I was telling my son, you might not necessarily be a footballer because that is a hard game. So props off to both of you to even get into professional clubs, but even things like the business side of the football. Whether it's what do Apne normally do? Be a doctor, be a lawyer, solicitor. Okay, well, be a doctor. Why don't you be a club doctor? Be a masseuse, or if you want to be a lawyer, be a sports lawyer. Contracts and all that. That's a massive thing.
There's loads, like you said. There's loads on that, Harps. Even like the PFL, we've got a practitioners network. So like Dr. Zafar Iqbal, who started at Leyton Orient, Tottenham, Liverpool, Crystal Palace. He's now head of medical at Arsenal. No, Zaf's
I think we know the one talking about, the one with the glasses.
Yeah. Zaf's had, I think, 17 consecutive years in the Premier League.
Wow.
As a doctor, you know what I mean? And like, that's massive.
I was going to say, what do you think of that side? Because let's be honest, like I says, with Apne and the players, it is going to take time, and I think you guys, hopefully, people understand what you guys have done is just amazing, and it's slowly more coming. So, but there's few and far between of you guys. But yeah, that other side of things, do you think there's more that could be done on that? Like it just says, lawyers, doctors, and all that side of thing.
Well, that's what we try and do. So the young South Asian players on our program, if they come out the game at any age, or if they retire, like we try and plan ahead. So can they? We got young players now who come out the game 2 years ago. They're doing physio. So one's just got placement at Blackburn. We got one person doing like cybersecurity working at a club. So doctors, physios, sports scientists, analysts. There's so many jobs in the game, and now because we have. Myself and Zesh got a good network in the game across all 92 clubs. We can pick the phone up. We can put someone into a place where we can get someone work experience. Like I said, 30 years ago, we knew no one, So alhamdulillah, like we've actually created our network and our sort of like support networks to help other people if they want to also work in the game as well. So not just ex-players, but again, people in the community that we've supported for the Zesh Rahman Foundation to get a job in football, coaching, community. There's so many jobs. There's so many jobs in the game to work now.
Can I just ask one more question before we wrap?
Yeah, go on.
Because you mentioned obviously players of faith and stuff. I don't know. Have you ever come across Nujum?
Yeah.
So obviously they do a lot with Muslim players and stuff. Now, my most recent sort of finding of yourself was the Brentford clip with the Imam.
Yeah.
How does that happen? How does that come about?
You was actually at Brentford today, weren't you, for Sorry.
Yeah, I did that. Yeah. So again,
2 days ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. So with the work around players of faith, so we did this probably going back 10 years. So I know Nujum are quite new coming into it, but we were doing this work around upskilling the coach on the PFA coaching courses. I said to my head of coaching, I said, look, with the influx of Muslim players now, we need some awareness. So I put together a presentation, a few slides, and I started delivering that on the coaching courses. But then as the games developed, it's not just for the coaches, but it's also for the support staff. So we've been doing this workshops at clubs, the like I said, best part of 10 years. And then Brentford, Thomas Frank actually, he got in touch and he was saying that there's a couple of Muslim players at the club and he wanted more awareness and information around it. So on the 2nd of January this year, I had a presentation. I went to the club training ground and I had Thomas Frank, his old coaching, first team coaching staff there as well. And I delivered the workshop. Initially, I was told I had half an hour, but honestly, 1 hour in, and Thomas just all sat there like asking questions. And he actually said, Riz, on the back of it, I have a better understanding of the religion, how beautiful it is, and why players fast. And then he said that we talked about like how he can approach the players. And I said, what I can do is maybe I can bring an imam in and we can sit one-on-one with the players just to find out what their plans are and just give them that additional like pastoral care, wraparound support. So we did that, went in, took the imam in, and then Johan Wissa, he reverted to Islam last year, and we sat down with him one-on-one in the canteen, and it was nice. And he really, really appreciated it as well. Did it at Nottingham Forest and a few other clubs. So we're just trying to grow that network. But really, a lot of the sport is behind the scenes that not everyone will see. I know some organisations, a lot of the work will be in the media and the public eye, but a lot of the PFA's work is more private, confidential, and the players want to keep it private, and I'm happy with that as well. So yeah, we are seeing more Muslim players. We are seeing more players of faith, all faiths. So it's important that we provide them that support, not just for the players, but also for their families, because the families want to make sure that their kids can still go to a Jummah on a Friday.
Yeah.
So how can the club accommodate that? You know, if a Sikh player doesn't want meat and he wants something else, how can we accommodate that as well? You know, multi-faith room, not just a prayer room, but a multi-faith space for anyone to sit in there and reflect.
No, amazing work. Like I says, you boys, between you and your brother, you've done fantastic work on the pitch. Like I says, like you just said earlier, Zesh is still, like you said, British born, Pakistani, Indian, player to play in the Premier League. And I think, like I says, it just shows the work that you guys done. But as I said earlier, I think hats off to your father and your mother as well. I think anybody listening to this, what's come across to me is, you know how happening are nowadays. I think they can do it all by themselves, especially young kids like that. But I think it just goes shows how important family are. But by the sounds of it, what you're doing off the pitch is even more incredible as well. And I think sometimes you haven't got that support network, so you guys are there. So that's really great, Riz, man. I really appreciate that. I mean, just before we go, any last kind of advice, insights for, like I says, not just people in the UK, but across the globe as well. We've seen a lot more players now. I think there's a guy called Tej Bal who's come from Canada to Rayo Vallecano in Spain as well. So they're doing their things as well. Any kind of advice, insights you can give to aspiring young players, not just the football pitch, but generally to come into football themselves?
Yeah, I think the advice would be, aim for the stars. Because you aim for the star, you hit a lamppost, at least you go on the way somewhere. You know what I mean? I think don't have a goal, have a dream, and don't let anyone tell you that it basically can't be done. Like I said, when I started off 30 years ago, we never ever imagined that we'd be in this position where, I'll be going around professional clubs. They should be working the game now as a coach after 500 career games. And if someone said to us 30 years ago, you'll be doing that in 30 years' time, I'm thinking, no chance. But you need to be ambitious and have a good support network around you. Maybe write your goals down, and then every single day, just leave no corners leave no stones unturned, and make sure that you go for it. Whether you're playing sport, whether you're doing education, you're studying for your GCSEs and you're expected a grade 7. Why grade 7? Why not go for a grade 9?
Yeah.
Just always really push yourself and strive to be the best. 'Cause that's what we've always been. We just wanted to be the best. Whether people talk about if you can't see it, you can't be it, but we didn't see anything. You know what I mean? But what we did see was we had our own ambitions. We had parents who had supported us, and we wanted to be the ones who could be it, so everyone else could sort of see it as well. You know what I mean? So it's not just because you can't see someone in your same person that looks like you in a certain role, you go and be that person who trailblazes.
100%, man. I don't think there's any better way to end it on that note. Like you said, not only did you think it, but you actually guys, been through it, and you have been it, and you are still being it. So again, thank you for joining us, and that inspiration. Hopefully, if anybody does want to get in touch, obviously, we'll leave us Riz's socials on our social as well. So again, Riz, thank you for joining us,
No,
and again, man, keep up the great work. Appreciate it.
thank you, man.
Thank you.